Hi learners, welcome back to Dilk. This is the fourth video in our series on the naming of organic compounds. In this video, we will be discussing the naming of organic compounds using the common or trivial system. As you may know and as we discussed, the common or trivial naming system is a historical way of naming compounds where names are often derived from their source, discovery or well-known properties rather than following strict rules like IUPAC. If you haven't watched the previous videos on the IUPAC nomenclature, I highly recommend checking those out first. There are 3 parts where we have covered all the basic concepts and steps in detail about IUPAC nomenclature and all these things. You can find the links at the top of this video, click the I icon, or you can get link from the description box. Once you are clear with those, come back to this video. It will make everything much easier to understand. Alright, let's get started. Now we can discuss about common or trivial naming system. And if you look at this naming system, firstly, we have to learn about a Greek letter positions that we commonly use in trivial naming system. Okay, if there is a functional group, for example, carboxylic acid is a functional group. Okay, so we should not consider this carbon atom while naming the positions. And the carbon atom which is next to this carbon is given the symbol alpha. Okay, alpha. Now the carbon atom which is next to this carbon, that is given the symbol beta. Okay, alpha, beta. Alpha is written as like this. This is beta. Then gamma. The carbon atom which is next to beta is gamma. Then delta. So what is the names? Alpha, beta, gamma, delta. The carbon atom which is next to the functional group is alpha, beta, gamma, delta. And one thing that you have to note down is that you should not consider the carbon atom of this carboxylic acid. If the functional group has a carbon atom, you should not consider that one. Okay, we should consider the carbon atom which is next to the functional group. That is the important point. Alpha, note on alpha carbon directly attached to functional group, not the functional group carbon itself. Now we can look at one example. Cl CH2 COH. Cl CH2 COH. Here you can see that this is a carbon atom, carboxyl. This is a functional group, principal functional group COH. We should not consider this carbon atom while giving the symbols. Okay, and this carbon atom is the alpha carbon, and there is a functional group chloro. And we will look how these names are coming. Alpha. Now you got this alpha. For halogen groups, we will give like chloro and acetic acid. So carboxylic acid which has only one other carbon atom, CH3COH. This carboxylic acid is known as a acetic acid. Okay. So if there is one carbon atom attached to COH group, then this group is known as a acetic acid. Okay, acetic acid. So totally the name will be alpha chloroacetic acid. Now we can differentiate with the IUPAC naming system. Instead of alpha, we will use numbers, right? So this alpha, this substituent is at the second position. So we will use 2-chloro. Then the word root is eth, right? So 2-chloro ethanoic acid, 2-chloro ethanoic acid. But instead of that common naming system, this compound is alpha chloroacetic acid. Okay. One thing that you have to note down is that in IUPAC naming system, we will start the numbering. We will give the number 1 to the functional group carbon itself. But in common naming system, we should not take the functional group carbon and we should start from the carbon atom which is next to the functional group. We should give the position alpha to the carbon atom which is next to the functional group. Okay. Next we can look at some common naming prefixes that used to come in the common naming system. So first one is N. So for normal straight chains, we will use N-butane. So word root is same. So we know that butane is for, if there are 4 carbon atoms, then this is known as butane. And here in common naming system, we will just add one N at the prefix. as a prefix. Okay. Then second is iso group. So the structure of N-butane is CH3, CH2, CH2, CH3. This is a butane. We know this butane. So in common name we will give N-butane. So this is N-butane. Second one is iso. For iso means if there are two CH3 group attached to a carbon atom, then this group has a common name iso. This is very important topic because in common naming system we use this iso. There are some other names also, iso, neo, sec butyl, tert butyl. These terms are very important. We used to use this in common names everywhere. So you have to be careful about this. So CH3, C, this compound, if this is coming as part of a system, then we will use this one as a iso. Okay. And we can look at this compound and we can name this compound. There are 4 carbon atoms in this compound. And we know if there is a terminal CH3, then this will be named as iso. And since there are totally 4 carbon atoms, 1, 2, 3, 4 carbon atoms, this is isobutane. Isobutane. Okay. Next is neopentane. Neo means if there is a carbon atom to which 4 other carbon atoms are attached, then it is neo. And since there is a 5 carbon atoms, we will give this one as neopentane. Neopentane. Now the next is that sec-butyl. Sec-butyl means we discussed about primary and secondary carbon atoms. Primary carbon atoms means carbon atom to which only one other carbon atom is attached. This carbon atom, both of these carbon atoms are primary carbon atoms. And secondary carbon atom means if to a carbon atom there are 2 other carbon atoms are attached, then this carbon atom is known as a secondary carbon atom. Okay, secondary carbon atom. So if a secondary carbon atom is there in a butane, then and there is a substituent, then we can write this position as this is a secondary carbon atom. So we can write sec, and how many carbon, what is the length of the chain? 4. So it will be sec-butyl alcohol. OH group is there, so sec-butyl alcohol. Now for tertiary carbon, this is a secondary carbon atom. Now for tertiary carbon atom, what will be tertiary carbon atom? To a carbon atom, if there is 3 other carbon atoms are attached, then that carbon atom is a tertiary carbon atom. Okay, tertiary carbon atom. So the tertiary carbon atom, then the name will be tert butyl. For secondary carbon atom it is sec-butyl. Tertiary carbon atom it is tert butyl. Okay, sec-butyl, tert butyl. Now the name is that tert butyl alcohol. Okay, tert butyl alcohol. These names you have to remember because these are important terms: iso, neo, sec-butyl, tert-butyl. Okay, these names are important names. Now we can look some common names of carboxylic acids. If the carboxylic acid, the simplest carboxylic acid, which has only one carbon atom, what will be the carboxylic acid? HCOOH. Okay, HCOOH. That is known as methanoic acid in IUPAC name. In common name, that carboxylic acid is known as formic acid. Formic acid. Oh, how this name came? From formica. Formica means ants. That means acid present in ants is formic acid. So from this ants, formic acid name is derived. Formica, formic acid. Secondly, we know that vinegar. Okay, vinegar, the acid present in vinegar is acetic acid. Means that in vinegar we say acetum. So from the acid derived from acetum is acetic acid. It is acetic acid. In IUPAC name, that is ethanoic acid. 2 carbon atoms, carboxylic acid with 2 carbon atom. Ethanoic acid, CH3COOH. This is CH3COOH, acetic acid derived from the acetum. Third one, if there is 3 carbon atom, which is propanoic acid, that will be CH3CH2COOH. IUPAC name, it is propanoic acid. In common name, this is propionic acid. And if there are 4 carbon atom butanoic acid, in common name it is butyric acid. Butyrum, it is derived from butter. So actually it came from butter. The acid present in butter, it is butyrum. So it derived from butter. So it is known as butyric acid. Okay. If there are 5 carbon atom, in IUPAC name it is pentanoic acid, while in common name it is valeric acid. Why valeric acid? It is present in valerian plant. Okay. And these are just to know the concept, that's all. These are the important terms: formic acid, acetic acid, propionic acid, butyric acid, valeric acid. And the last one, hexanoic acid. For 6 carbon atoms are there, that is commonly known as caproic acid, which is present in capergold. Okay. So finally we can get formic acid, acetic acid, propionic acid, butyric acid, valeric acid, caproic acid. So just to remember this term, you can use this code: formerly formic acid, formerly acetic pupil, acetic for acetic acid, pupil for propionic acid, bi for butyric acid, very valeric acid, cheap caproic acid. Formerly acetic pupil, bi, very cheap. You can just use this code for just remember these terms. Now from the common names of carboxylic acid, we can derive the common names for aldehyde and ketone. It's very simple. We can look at this. For aldehydes, replace the ic acid by aldehyde. That's all. For instead of methanoic acid, here it is methanoic acid. Instead of methanoic acid, in aldehyde it is methanol. Instead of formic acid in carboxylic acid, in aldehydes it is formaldehyde. For methanol, IUPAC name is methanol. For that the common name is formaldehyde. For ethanol, ethanoic acid, the common name was acetic acid. So for aldehydes it is, for ethanol it is acetaldehyde. So in propanol it is propanaldehyde. For butanol, in common name butyraldehyde. Just change the ic acid by aldehyde. Okay, that's for aldehydes. Common names for ketones, alkyl ketone. That is the common term, alkyl ketones, because the structure of ketone is that carbon oxygen double bond, then a alkyl group attached and another alkyl group attached. These alkyl groups can be same or different. So we will use, while we name the compounds in common naming system, ketones has the name alkyl ketone. Alkyl ketone. We can see some examples. CH3COCH3 dimethyl ketone. In common name it is acetone. Okay, acetone. And for CH3COC2H5, it is ethyl methyl ketone. How ethyl is coming first? Based on the alphabetic order. Ethyl methyl ketone. And for this ketones, C6H5COCH3. This is C6H5 means a phenyl group. Okay, to this phenyl group, a CO group is attached. To that CO, the other R group is R dash is CH3. This is a structure. So here order is alkyl ketone. So two alkyl groups are there, and one is methyl group, another is phenyl group. So in alphabetic order, M come first, so we have to write methyl first. So methyl phenyl ketone, alkyl ketone, methyl ethyl ketone. Okay, that is the naming system for ketones. Then for alcohols and ethers, for alcohols we will write alkyl alcohol. What we will write? Alkyl alcohol. So if it is, we can write simple alcohol CH3OH. CH3OH. So the common name will be, this is in IUPAC naming system, it is methanol, right? Methanol. But in common name it will be alkyl alcohol, methyl alcohol, methyl alcohol. Then if it is CH3CH2COH, then the common name is ethyl alcohol. Okay, this is the naming system for alcohols, alkyl alcohol. For ethers, it is alkyl ether. The order is just like ketone, alkyl ketone. For ethers, it will be alkyl ether. For example, ethers are the compounds which has ROR, which has a general formula R or R dash. It can be same alkyl groups or different. So the general formula is ROR. So the name will be alkyl ether. For example, if the two of these R groups are CH3 groups, CH3 or CH3, then the name will be methyl ether, right? But instead of that, if both are same, we will use di. If two same groups are there, then we will use di. If there are three same groups, then we will use tri. Okay, these two terms you have to remember, di, tri. So here two methyl groups are there, so we will write, instead of alkyl ether, we can write dimethyl ether. So if instead of that, if this CH3, one of this CH2 group is instead of one CH3 group, if it is CH2 CH3, means that one methyl and one ethyl group, then the name will be ethyl methyl ether. Ethyl methyl ether. Okay, that is the naming system for alcohols and ethers. Now we can look at some of the aromatic compounds. In aromatic compounds, we will look some simple organic compounds. Okay, this is benzene ring. To benzene ring, if a CH3 group is attached, then this compound is toluene. In common naming system, it is toluene. C6H5CH3 toluene. If instead of CH3 group, if it is a OH group, then if it is an OH group, then it is phenol. That is phenol. So instead of OH group, if it is NH2, amine group, NH2, amine, then the name for that compound is aniline. Then if it is COOH, carboxylic acid, then it is known as benzoic acid. These are the common names for some of the aromatic compounds: toluene, phenol, aniline, benzoic acid. Okay. Now we can look at the positional prefixes. Here, if there are two substituents attached, like here this is CH3 group, and if there is one more substituent at this position, if at this position, if there is one more substituent group like CH3OH, any substituent group, then in IUPAC naming this is 1, 2, right? 1, 2. But in common name, instead of 1, 2, we will write ortho. We will write ortho. Okay. So, what is ortho? If there are two substituents in which both are at 1, 2 position. If this is 1 and at the second position there is a substituent, this is ortho. If instead of that, if the substituent is at this position, one substituent is at first position, okay, this is first position, and second substituent is at the third position, okay, 1, 2, 3. If the substituents are present in a position such a way that 1, 3, then this compound is then in common naming system, these positions are known as meta, okay, meta. And if instead of that 1, 3, if the position is 1, 4, means that the structure will be like this. One position here, then one position here, 1, 2, 3, 4. Position is 1, 4. Then in common naming system, this is known as para. Ortho, meta, para. Ortho, meta, para. Ortho is represented as O, meta is represented as M, para is represented as P. 1, 2, 1, 3, 1, 4, they are known as ortho, meta, para. Okay, ortho, meta, para. Now I hope that naming of aromatic compounds is also clear. So these are some of the important basic things that you have to know while you are naming an organic compounds. Okay, now we can just quick recap the whatever we have learned. First is that you have to spot all functional groups and we have to give the ranking based on the priority. Right, that is the first one. Secondly, we have to give suffix for the highest priority, then rest will be taken as the prefixes. Thirdly, longest chain including principal group is given as the has to give the word root. And IUPAC naming system, we know it follows prefix plus word root plus primary suffix plus secondary suffix. Okay. Once we decide this suffix and once we decide these suffixes, then we have to decide the word root. Word root will be the longest chain including the principal functional group. Next we have to check for saturations. Is there any double bond or triple bonds? Okay. After that, we have to give the numbers for the chain. There the condition is that the principal group must get lowest locant. Okay, it should get lowest locant. Then next is that alphabetical prefixes. If there are 2-3 substituents, then we have to follow the alphabetical order, just like eth and meth. We will, if ethyl and methyl groups are there, which one we will select? Ethyl group we will select. And for di and tri, if we are using di, tri, these terms, we don't have to consider this one for alphabetical order. Okay, this is an exception case. Then lastly, we have to assemble all these things and write the final name in the order: prefix plus root plus primary suffix plus secondary suffix. Okay, this is about the naming system of organic compounds in IUPAC and common naming systems. I hope all these concepts are clear for you. If you have any doubts, don't hesitate to ask me. You can just comment below, or you can just contact me through this social medias available here. So make sure rewatch this video if needed, practice the concepts, get fully comfortable before moving on. Then head to the next part where we will solve the problem step by step. If you are a class 11 or 12 NCERT student and want complete materials, notes, tips, tricks or live classes, one-on-one sessions, visit our website or contact us through the number. Check the description box or comment section for more details. If you found this helpful, don't forget to like, share and subscribe and turn on the notification bell. Thank you for watching. See you in the next video.